let's talk about rankings. Because I think it's important to look at where we finished with our rankings. So these are offensive line rankings for the Cincinnati Bengals over the last 5 years. Now, PFF has not done their 2025 rankings yet, so we have to go to PFN, where PFN ranks us 29 out of 32. Yeah, it's fun. But taking a look back throughout the history of Joe Burrow's career, 2020's rookie season, we ranked 31 going into the season. Keep in mind, again, the right numbers are going into the season. The left numbers are after the season has finished. So PFF puts it out in June before the season, and then they put out another article in January after the season. So 31, we finished with the 30th ranked offensive line. 2021, 25th going into the season. We finished with the 20th ranked offensive line. 2022, the 8th offensive line, which it's insane to say that, but that was the offensive line that was led by left tackle Jonah Williams, left guard Jackson Carman, Teddy K, Alex Kappa, and Lael Collins. That was that offensive line going into 2022. And that was ranked, according to PFF, the 8th best offensive line going into the year. We proceed to finish the year with the 28th best offensive line. So 20 spots off. Which, again, going into that year, that seemed like the dream team. Jonah, Carman, Teddy K, Kappa, and Collins. But clearly, dream team did not work out. Let's finish with the 28th offensive line. 2023, 17th offensive line going into the year. We finished with the 26th offensive line. And I think you kind of get the drift here. Other than 2021, where Joe Burrow did have the 20th offensive line in the end, every other year was 26 to 30. Guaranteed 26 to 30. Even in 2024, started with the 21st. That was the projected going into the season. 30th ending the season. Now, going into this season, we're starting off with the 29th ranked offensive line. Now, again, there's not much room for being worse than that. I mean, it's either 29 to 32, right? So you either can be 30, 31, 32, and that would be worse than what we have currently projected. And this is the best thing about hitting rock bottom. You can only go up from here. But you would think, with this being such a powerful offense, such a really amazing offense, that they would, in the years that we are looking at right now, which is a total of 6 years, will be the 6th year upcoming. At some point, Bengals front office would sit there and say, I have a crazy idea. Why don't we just go out of our way to make sure we protect Joe Burrow? Why don't, because we just paid Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and paid all of our superstars. Why don't we just do a crazy thing? Go out there and protect the quarterback. But it's not the case. Going into this year, we do have left tackle Orlando Brown, who should be good. Teddy K. Okay. And then Amarius Mims, who I'm thinking is going to have a great sophomore season. But outside of that, left guard, obviously, most likely, I would say it's probably going to be Fairchild, in all honesty. It could be Cordell Volson, but it's probably going to be Fairchild. Right guard right now look like Lucas Patrick, but possible Cody Ford. I don't know, man. It's like, again, we're going off of what ifs, right? Potential. We did that in 2022. Going into that season, we did lose some guys to injury, which you always expect to lose players to injury when it comes to the offensive line position. It's a very, hands-on, injury-prone position. I don't know. I still think we should sign 2 offensive guards, Will Hernandez, and I would sign Brandon Sheriff. If Brandon Sheriff doesn't want to play, whatever, go ahead and get Will Hernandez and Dalton Risner. And I'd have those 2 guys as starters. I'd have Fairchild as the backup to, I would probably say Will Hernandez as left guard. I'd have Fairchild as the backup to him. Have him develop for a year, right? Sit back, learn with Scott Peters, really get him to a very high potential. Plus, you can use him in jumbo packages, stuff like that, right? Kind of what we wanted to do with Mims last year, but Trent Brown obviously crapped the bed and got hurt after week 3. But that's the same concept, right? You want to have that guy that you can sit back, develop, train, and kind of grow in a way like a farm system, like in baseball. You have a farm system to back up your starting offensive linemen so they're ready to go the second you need them. It's not the case. That's not the case. We're probably going to start Fairchild. We're probably not going to sign any offensive guards, which, again, like I said, I'm very high on Fairchild, but at the same time, I would love to be able to have those options. And especially when you have, Joe Burrow, you want to protect him. You want to do everything you can to make sure everything is good. And these numbers you see on your screen are unacceptable. They really are. You win in the trenches, offensive line, defensive line, and this is something that I feel like, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing on repeat and expecting different results. And it's like, look at the screen. The results aren't going to change if you just do the same thing. And it's like the numbers are going to be the same over and over and over and over again. Because what are you changing? Scott Peters. That's the big change. Scott Peters or Frank Polk. That's a huge change. And I don't want to undermine how big of a change that is. But at the same time, it's like you're going into a season with, again, expectations that hopefully this unit will work out. It hasn't in the past. But again, like I said, I do really think Scott Peters is going to be that guy. I think Frank Polk was what was holding back our offensive line. But again, like I said, if you're right and it works, Super Bowl, right? Protect quarterback. Obviously, you still have to get the defensive work out, right? But you protect Joe Burrow, Super Bowl. You're wrong. Joe Burrow's injured. Or our offense struggles and our offense, whatever, And if you don't have an offensive line, you can't run the ball. If you don't have an offensive line, you can't pass the ball. If you don't have an offensive line, you can't protect your quarterback. You can't avoid turnovers. There's all these things you have to take in consideration when it comes to the offensive line. And it's a forever battle with us. Forever battle. But hopefully this year's different. Hopefully at the end of this year, I'm talking about the offensive line being ranked 29th going into the season and finishing with that 8 in 2022. That's what I hope and pray for. And I will play every single night until that happens. Hoo day, boys, hoo day.